Hello my fellow Brickheads, it is I, Galaxy of Bricks here, and welcome to another LEGO video. And today's video isn't exactly about anything in particular that is relevant. It is something that has been on my mind for quite a while, but isn't specifically about a set. I decided to balance out our charity Brickathon week with other videos that aren't just set reviews and comparisons and things like that. So today's video is a bit of a discussion. It's quite a in-depth discussion, and it's about something that has been an integral part of the LEGO Star Wars sub-theme since its inception. It's something that has undergone a lot of changes cosmetically since it was first introduced. It's something that has divided the LEGO Star Wars community. It is something that has sparked a lot of debate in the LEGO Star Wars community. It is something that has become very much ingrained, not just with LEGO, but also with Star Wars in general. It's a pop culture phenomenon. It's something that we as fans can instantly recognise. Even if you're a non-Star Wars fan or a non-LEGO fan, you will recognise this straight away. And that is this. It is the LEGO Star Wars Stormtrooper. So, just to give you a little bit of context, when LEGO first started to do the Star Wars theme, all those many years ago, it only really had one variation of Stormtrooper. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the early Stormtroopers to show you. I got rid of my collection naively in my youth, as you do. I got rid of my collection when I was quite young, and I only really got back into LEGO collecting again about 2014. So the only point of comparison I've got is from 2014 to present day as we are making this video. I haven't got the earlier Stormtroopers to compare them to, which is a shame, because I feel like it would be something that would be fantastic to go back and look at. But I have done my research, so I can talk about it briefly, but I won't go into too much detail without having it on camera to show you. But the LEGO Stormtrooper, originally when it first started, was pretty basic. It had its torso printing, it had its headpiece, it had no leg printing, and it came with one of the very first original blasters, which was a megaphone with a red stud. That was what it was, and it pretty much kept that basic design for a very long time. LEGO experimented with different Stormtrooper variations over the years, but it wasn't really up until about the mid-2010s when it decided to do something drastically different with the overall aesthetic of the Stormtrooper. And the LEGO Stormtrooper itself has been something that I am a very big fan of. I mean, I have got numerous Stormtroopers in my collection, and what better way to kick things off with one of the first iterations that I got back into collecting with, and it is this version of the Stormtrooper. Now, this is the 2014 version, with the standard blaster, which has become a key part of LEGO Star Wars now. The 2014 Stormtrooper is one that most of us as LEGO fans will instantly recognise. It's been in a great many sets that have been released. We've had the we've had the Y-Wing set, which I have. It has been released in battle packs. It's been released in the Freemaker Adventures. It has been featured in the updated Death Star sets. Its most recent iteration was the Betrayal at Cloud City collector set, which has been retired now, and that is, to the best of my knowledge, the last time we've seen a version of this like Stormtrooper type in a LEGO set, because LEGO also during the same time released a variant of this trooper, which is this variant of the Stormtrooper. And I know what you're thinking, looking at the two figures, you're thinking, a Stormtrooper's a Stormtrooper, what's the difference? But if you look very carefully, and I'll do a quick individual to show you, these are actually, even though they're the same type of character, they're actually very different. This has been the standard version of the Stormtrooper that we've had since 2014. This has been as I said before, in a great many sets, you know, when they released Rogue One and that version of the sets, we got this version of the Stormtrooper. When they did some of the battle packs, we got that version of the Stormtrooper. This version of the Stormtrooper is actually based on the Rebels TV series, which was released roughly about the same sort of time. So at the time, Lego did something very bold, which was, instead of having one consistent design, they decided to have two separate designs to differentiate the two sub-themes. So this was your standard canon and non-Rebels version. This was your Rebels version. Now, the Rebels version of the Stormtrooper, I personally love. I think the overall design of it is fantastic. I love the helmet piece for this guy. I think the elongated mouth grill is fantastic. As you can see, it's something a little bit different that you don't see in a lot of Lego figures, let alone Lego Stormtrooper figures. And for me, it adds to that kind of cartoony sort of look that you get with a lot of the Rebel sets now. I mean, I've got a lot of the Rebel sets. I've got the all-terrain defense pod, which is where this specific minifigure is from. I've got versions of it from the Imperial Transport Battle Pack. I've got versions of this guy from, you know, the Stormtrooper Sergeant Polybag, which is one of my favourite Stormtrooper figures ever. I think just the idea of it is great. You know, so that, to me, will always be one of my favourite figures. I love just the overall Rebels design. I think, for the time, it was fantastic because Star Wars Rebels was aimed at kids. It was very cartoony, but it matched the tone that they were going for. This version, however, what I like about this one is I like the leg printing on this character more so than I like the leg printing on the Rebels version. I think the leg printing on this one is so much more in keeping with Stormtroopers than it is with this one. As you can see, the right leg is pretty much virtually the same on both, but the left leg is different. This one's a lot bulky. The design is a lot bulkier. This one's quite smooth. I prefer the leg printing on this one, but the overall look of this one. And then obviously, if you put the two side by side, you'll see that the helmet print and the mould is actually pretty much the same. Lego haven't deviated from the helmet mould since the 90s and the early 2000s when they first introduced Stormtroopers into Star Wars canon. They've kept the design pretty much the same up until a couple of years ago when we got a new updated version of the Stormtrooper, which has not been without controversy, and it is this version of the Lego Stormtrooper. And as you can already tell looking at it, the helmet piece has been completely different to any of its previous versions. The helmet piece is completely different, and if I put all three of them together for you, you can easily see that they're not the same. They are, despite the core character that they're portraying, their design is completely different. The newer version, which has been released following, in all Lego sets that feature a Stormtrooper following the Betrayal at Cloud City set, have featured this Stormtrooper. I think we've had this one since about 2019, so currently, as of time of recording, this is the most up-to-date version of the Stormtrooper that you will get. He's been featured in a lot of the different sets. So, for example, you can get versions of this guy in the Death Star Escape set with Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia. You can get him in the Imperial Marauder set, which I've covered already previously on this channel. You can get him in, you know, the Imperial Dropship 20th Anniversary set, which I've got. You can get a black version, which is the Shadow Trooper that comes in this set. You know, he's our current in Lego Stormtrooper, and I must admit there are some good things about this guy that I really like. I mean, the torso print is very sharp, it's very nice, it's very much a good mix of the two previous 2014 and Rebels and standard versions of the Stormtrooper. But the helmet rather, doesn't move. There's no articulation in the helmet, and it looks very, very, very bulky. It's not a single piece like the two previous versions are. It's actually, as you'll see, it's actually a dual-moded piece. So it's actually black on the inside and white on the out, and I mean, obviously, you know, it's Angry Clone, which we've had for a while. That's recently changed with a lot of Stormtroopers now. They don't have the Angry Clone face, and I'll show you why in a second. But this version of the Stormtrooper, I like his design, like his torso print. I like his printing design and his torso and everything. I don't like the helmet. As you can see with the Rebels version, the helmet moves. You can articulate the helmet for your displays, for your mocks, for your things like that. Adds to the play features. Same with the other 2014 version. But you don't get the same sort of versatility you do with this guy. I mean, I know that he's a lot more screen accurate, so he's very much accurate to the versions we see in the original trilogy, you see in Rogue One, you see in Solo, A Star Wars Story, you see in The Mandalorian. He's very much that screen accurate, but for me, I'm a big sucker for this version. I think because I grew up and was able to rebuild my collection based around this guy, I'm always going to be a big diehard fan of this one. This one, for me, I mean, don't get me wrong, it is what it is. We get this guy in a lot of sets now, but it's just, yeah, I think the helmet is what ruins it for me. We first got something like this with the Imperial Patrol Trooper and the Mimbam Stormtrooper, which I've also covered on one of my previous videos. The Mimbam Stormtrooper has the same kind of variant of this helmet, but with a frontal piece and is in sort of an urban kind of grey camouflage. This is your standard canon version of the Stormtrooper, and yeah, I mean, the back printing on all three, as you can see, is relatively the same. So this is the newer version, this is the 2014 version, and this is the Rebels version. So the design has changed in minor aesthetic parts, but hasn't really done much else apart from that. So these are the three main sort of Stormtrooper figures from the original trilogy and other media that we see on screen, but we're not done yet. We are going to have to talk about the recently released, and when I say recently, I mean 2015 versions of the Stormtrooper, and that is actually going to be the, if I can find it, I have it here, here we go, which is actually going to be the First Order Stormtrooper. Now, the First Order Stormtrooper featured in The Force Awakens, and to differentiate it from the original trilogy, because it's a completely separate timeline, it's about 20 or 30 years after the end of Return of the Jedi, Star Wars came up with a version of the Stormtrooper and Lego released it as a figure. Now, this version, I mean, the armour's quite nice. The armour design hasn't really changed much in terms of its general look. It's white, it's a Stormtrooper, it's very uniform, it very matches both an Imperial and First Order evolution of Stormtrooper armour, but I myself don't like the fact that its overall look isn't as nice to look at as it with any of the previous three. What I'll give for the newer Stormtrooper is the look of it is actually so much better. Like, in comparison to the general aesthetic, this isn't as nice as any of the original three, which for me is a big thing. I mean, if you buy a lot of your sets recently, you'll notice that First Order Stormtroopers are a dime a dozen, but actually you'll find that there are two variants of the First Order style Stormtrooper. So there's this version, which has been in circulation since 2015, and there's also, which I don't know why they changed, I don't know what the in-canon version of, why they bothered to change it, which is actually this version, which is another variant of the Stormtrooper design. And you're probably thinking to yourself, right, okay, what's the crack? What's the difference? And it's only subtle, but you'll notice that with the 2015 version, the mouth grill is quite chunky and it's quite wide. With the version that was released with all sets related to The Last Jedi in 2017, this version, it's quite narrow. Its helmet design is quite narrow, so the actual mouth grill isn't fat, it isn't chunky, it isn't thick. It's actually quite small, and if you put the two side by side, you can notice it a lot more there. It's a lot more elongated, it's a lot more sharp, it's a lot more curved. This version I don't like as much as I like this version. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the new Stormtrooper aesthetic anyway. I think the old one will always be best for me, but I prefer this variant of the First Order Stormtrooper as opposed to the one that you've got with Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. I don't know why they decided to shorten and narrow the mouthpieces. I don't know why they bothered to do anything like that. I think if anything, that was a better look, to be honest with you. But again, I don't know why they did that. There's probably a reason out there, I just haven't really looked into it all that much. So as you can see, put all 5 of them together, the basic concept of the Stormtrooper and its design hasn't changed a lot since the early days of LEGO Star Wars. But it's only from about 2014 up to present day, as time of recording, where we have seen multiple variants of the Stormtrooper. And as we've stated, the 2014 version of the Stormtrooper was one of the first characters in Stormtrooper form that I had in my new collection, and it's come full circle with both the newer First Order version and the newer Standard Imperial version. I think we as LEGO fans, we like to have our LEGO minifigures and our LEGO sets as accurate to the source material as we possibly can. And I think I can understand why there has been a lot of debate amongst the LEGO Star Wars community about the redesigns and the variations in Stormtrooper looks and things like that, because it's such an iconic design. The design of Stormtroopers themselves are ingrained in the public consciousness. You can go anywhere in the world, and regardless of whether you like Star Wars or you don't like Star Wars, whether you have seen it or you religiously follow Star Wars like myself and a lot of other people do, you instantly recognise it. The Stormtroopers up there with like Darth Vader and Chewbacca, it's something that everybody recognises. And to see LEGO and Disney come up with different variations of the Stormtrooper and different ideas for the Stormtrooper is nice, because it means that you can appreciate the fact that they've gone to great lengths to come up with different things for us all, and they've come up with different ways of doing it. But I also think, for me, if you're going to do it, do something that we as fans will appreciate more. I mean, the newer version for me, whilst it's most screen accurate, I don't really like the fact the head doesn't move, like the helmet doesn't move. And I don't like the fact that the most screen accurate version is on a vastly inferior figure. I mean, if they had a helmet design similar to the original one that wasn't dual moded on this figure, I would I would be a big fan. But again, that's just my opinion. I love Stormtroopers. Anything Imperial, I'm a massive fan of. Anything in the LEGO Star Wars fandom that I'm a massive fan of will always be Imperial, and it will always be sort of, say, Stormtroopers or different versions of Stormtroopers. I love that. Most of my collection is actually Stormtroopers and bad guy type characters. You know, I have good guys, but I will always have a soft spot for Stormtroopers because I love that stark white aesthetic, you know? So we're coming towards the end of the video, guys. I'm sorry that I've rabbited on and I've kind of instead of doing what I'm normally used to, which is a set review and it's us going over the ins and outs of a variety of different sets, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to go for something that I thought my die-hard followers and my die-hard fans and those people who have at least seen Star Wars would like, and that was to do a bit of a 2014 to present day Stormtrooper comparison video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. If you have any comments, questions or queries, please let me know in the comment section below. Which of these 5 is your favourite? Which design of Stormtrooper do you like the most? Is there a specific one that you like, that you have a soft spot for? I really want to know, because, you know, it's always something that I could do another video on for a later date. So please, please, please get in touch with me. So far for our charity Brickathon, we're at day 3 today. We got a couple of more sets in the post today, which I have had a poll on my TikTok, which we are going to be discussing hopefully as the week goes on. We might do a couple more set reviews tomorrow, and we might do a couple of videos for this weekend, so stay tuned for that one. Don't forget to, as I said before, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything that I post. Follow me on TikTok at The Galaxy of Bricks. Follow me on Instagram at The Galaxy of Bricks. This whole week is dedicated to Brickathon, so we're doing a lot of different things, so go and check it out. Until next time, guys, look after yourselves, and I shall see you all very, very soon. Take care, guys. Bye-bye now.